morning we will remember them, because I've got a poppy cross to lay for a relative that I've just recently found out. His name is Robert Tempest Fozzard, Private Robert Tempest Fozzard, service number 18978, and he was in the 9th battalion of the Northumberland Fusiliers. In the spring of 1916, their battalion held position at the southern part of the Ypres salient, and on the 1st of July 1916, so it's the start of the first day of the Battle of the Somme, they were in reserve in an area called Fricourt, and on the 4th of July they moved into position to take Quadrangle and Shelter Trench. By the 5th of July they were in position and they held the attacks of the assault. They were repelling with the gunfire and the shelling, and by the 6th of July 1916 several of the men were killed, and one of them was Private Robert Tempest Fozzard. So now I'm going to lay a poppy. I found his name, we came here yesterday, found his name, and now I'm going to lay a poppy cross at the closest area that I can on the Thiepval Memorial, and there's about over 72,000 names on this memorial, and they're all missing in the Somme. Some of them have no known graves, some of them are in the graves where it says no known grave. That we don't know, but every single one is remembered on a memorial, and this one's Thiepval Memorial. So now I'm going to lay the poppy. Yes, 72,000, just over 72,000 names on this memorial, and every single one, imagine all these panels, they're all missing. No grave.
Wasn't it this one? Wasn't it this one?
Nope, it's this one.
Is it that one?
Yeah. So, here he is on that panel there.
Yeah.
Robert Tempest Fozzard. May get blown over, I don't know.
It's not really going to stay there, is it?
It's not going to stay here, so. 19 years old.
I know.
Only young. He was actually, when we went to Pigeon Ravine Cemetery to go see Dick Thompson, who's my great-great-uncle, Private Robert Tempest Fozzard was his uncle.
Ah, right.
So they will have known each other.
Mm.
9th Battalion of the Northumberland Fusiliers. I wonder how many people know that they've got relatives missing and they're recorded on a memorial like this.
Well, I've only got the one, but I never knew until my sister found that we had a relative, and then you found loads that you didn't know you had, and it's remarkable, really, because you know, you've got relatives you never knew you had who died in the First World War.
Yeah. So, and every now and again what they do is they may find a body on somewhere where they've been doing work for building
work, new road, whatever.
New road or whatever, and they may find a body and they'd realise it's somebody from the Great War. They may find some identification on him or not, but if they do find an identification on him, they can trace him back to his family, you know, and regiment and everything and what happened, and then lay him to rest. And if they don't find out who exactly he belongs to, which descendants they are, they will bury them with honours. It's going to blow over here, isn't it?
That's why people put it in the middle, but it fits into there. Oh, no, it's not deep
It's
enough,
not
is it?
really.
No.
I could just leave it there like that,
Oh.
couldn't I? Shall I leave it there
I
like
think
that?
everybody else has left it in the middle, haven't they? I think that's probably,
I might actually leave it here
yeah.
along with these other crosses because there's no ground to stick it in and it'll probably get blown away. So I'm going to leave him. I'll leave him here. There we are. I'll leave it there. Seems like the best place to leave it, doesn't it?
It does. Something you didn't mention was when they do find one that they actually identify, and this slab could be a case in point, obviously they get a headstone and then they'll remove
Oh yeah.
a name. What they'll do is they'll take this panel out and get another one and get another one etched with the names with that one not on it because he then has a known grave.
So what you've got to think is, even to this day, over 100 years later, there's still great importance and respect given to these men. You know, they're not forgotten. Not forgotten, are they?
Well, they gave up their futures for ours.
Exactly. Now I hope there's a pen in here. 'Cause I forgot to bring one. It's in car. Oh, there's a pen.
That's handy.
So,
And of course, the register of names runs into quite a few volumes.
I've left a message in the book register.
Let's have a look.
Commonwealth War Graves. So there's my message. I haven't written a date. What date is it today?
18th today.
So it's the 18th.
Yeah. It was 2 years ago today that we last arrived in France.
18th of September.
Yeah, 2 years ago since we started our van life adventures.
It is, isn't it? I've decided to move. There we go. Heck of a lot of names.
Sobering. Absolutely sobering, isn't it?
When you think of 72,000 names, it doesn't hit you until you actually see all the names on every single side of these columns. But
this is only just one of many of these
yeah,
memorials.
I'll say goodbye to Private 18978 Robert Tempest Fozzard of the 9th Battalion of the Northumberland Fusiliers, age 19. Well, he is going to be remembered by me, not forgotten. So,
You just don't know, we may be the first to have paid our respects to him.
probably. Everyone is important. They gave up their lives for us,
They did.
for our future. Everyone's important. So,
Well, I just read on that plaque there, there's 1,700,000 from the Commonwealth, from both World Wars. That's how many that the Commonwealth War Graves Commission
right.
look after.
So let's
Let's go and
move
get that-
on.
Let's go and get that. Let's go and get that cup of tea.
Yeah, let's move on.
This is the Ulster Tower, the memorial to the 36th Ulster Division and the other men of Ulster who served in the Great War, 1914 to 1918.
Looks like a little medieval tower, doesn't it?
It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
I think inside there's some memorial of some kind, so
Yeah. And some paintings, I think. Some pictures, nice paintings, and
yeah.
obviously lots of memorials to various Ulster regiments.
Let's have a look at this then. Oh. Lots of plaques and wreaths and poppy crosses. Oh look at them. They're interesting. Look at that.
It's lovely.
Paintings.
Very dramatic.
There, aren't they? It's a bit dark, is that one, but
Yeah.
these others are a little bit dark, but dramatic.
Yeah.
Depicts a scene of the trench. A scene of
Over the top.
men going over the top of the parapet.
Just the dawn or prior to dawn, by the looks of it to me. We've just got a little bit of.
Yeah.
Just the start of the sunrise.
Yeah, so we've got lots of plaques and wreaths. It's very nice, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
You ready to move on?
Yeah.
So we're now in the area of Beaumont Hamel, but first, this is quite close to Beaumont Hamel, but this is what we call the Sunken Lane behind us, and in front of us we can see the Hawthorn Ridge Crater. But what we're going to do, yep, where point to it?
Just there.
There, where those group of trees are. But first we're going to walk to a point, and we're going to try as best to overlay it with a well-known photo or piece of video that is often shown in World War I documentaries. So Mullins was a photographer or videographer at the time, documenting real-time events in the First World War, particularly in this area. So we're going to try and get to that point now,
If it's not too overgrown.
if it's not too overgrown.
And he filmed from this point where we're trying to get to now, the mine explosion, which went off more or less the same time as Loch Nagar. This'll do, here.
We might not be able to get to the exact point, it's quite overgrown.
This is a ridge where he actually took the images, but it may have been a bit further along. Also, all these trees have grown up since 1918. There's actually two craters here. It's like a double crater because it was actually detonated on two separate occasions. So when we go and see the crater shortly, you'll see that it's like two crater depressions.
Yeah, we're going to go into the crater, aren't we?
Yeah.
So if I just yeah, because we can't really get further
Well,
along.
we could, but we wouldn't be able to see because this is a clearing in the trees. So it's more or less the same point. And now we're going to walk up the Sunken Lane, which was a natural defence.
So if I hold that there, so after the explosion of the mine at Hawthorn, it was under the German lines. 7:20 a.m. on the 1st of July 1916, so signalling the start of the first day of the Battle of the Somme. A short while after that, after the mine had exploded, after the mine had exploded, the 2nd Lancashires could be seen running on top of the ridge to gain the crater, to flush out the Germans, so to speak. Also, on that morning, I'll show you down here, is what is called the Sunken Lane. So this is the Sunken Lane, and the Lancashire Fusiliers were down here. This was actually no man's land at the time. So a short while after the mine had exploded, on the 1st of July 1916, this is the line where the Lancashire Fusiliers were, the position where they were, and this was no man's land.
But it's a natural depression. It's a sunken lane, so it's a natural depression, or a worn depression, which was obviously a natural defence.
So 7:30 a.m. on that very same morning, their signal was to leave this area.
So they literally go up here
and head this way.
Some memorials there to
there's some memorials
family,
in there.
no doubt.
Various ones here. So this is their point of attack. Obviously all these trees, some trees were there, weren't there?
There were trees, but not these ones.
Yeah, but anyway, so...
And you see the men from the position where Mallins was, you can see the men running across here.
Now, as I left this area over from where we've just been, the men would have been shot at from various directions, sideways and facing. They were literally cut down. And just beyond here, which we'll go to have a brief look at, is a cemetery. I think it's Hawthorn Ridge Cemetery number 1 or something, or number 2, I'm not sure.
There's one up on the top there as well.
There's a few around this area, because later what we'll do is we'll visit Beaumont Hamel, where there's some preserved trenches. But for now, I think what we're going to do is going to look at this cemetery, and then we'll head on up to where those group of trees are, Hawthorn Mine Ridge Crater, and have a look in there.
This is very much more overgrown than it was before.
So there's another little memorial here.
Quite a nice stone headstone. So it's to commemorate the action of the 1st Lancashire Fusiliers, who at 7:30 a.m. July the 1st, 1916, mounted this bank and crossed the field to attack the German lines. They encountered withering fire from the front and both sides. The battalion lost 165 killed, 312 wounded and 11 missing, presumed dead. And this was placed 100 years later, pretty well to the minute, placed here at 7:30 a.m, July the 1st, 2016.
So now we'll have a look at that cemetery that's just on beyond this.
This is similar to Pigeon Ravine, where we visited a couple of days ago. It literally is pretty well where the men fell. Obviously it's been tied into neat ranks. The army like to be ordered, organised, don't they?
Yeah.
Like to put things standing to attention in straight lines.
So it just says Beaumont Hamel British Cemetery. So there's just 2 lines of them. Again, some missing ones.
You've got to remember,
The Lancashire Fusiliers.
you've got to remember that these patches of ground were fought over repeatedly. So, whereas they may have had a marked headstone, sometimes the soldiers who had been, they knew where they were, the ground was churned up repeatedly. And if we look over here, don't know, this is a German one that's been put there rather than put in a dedicated German cemetery. It's warming up nicely, isn't it? Sun's coming out now.
Sun's starting to come out. You can see why the Germans held this position. As always, it's on the high ground.
Oh yeah.
So let's just get a bearing first. So down there, you see the Celtic cross. Just along that pathway down there is a sunken lane where we've been, and that is a cemetery where we've been to. So you got the Lancashire Fusiliers, 7:30 a.m. coming out of no man's land in the sunken lane and heading over this area,
all open ground,
and meeting their fate. This is the Hawthorn Crater, where a mine was detonated at 7:20 a.m. 1st of July 1916, signalling the mark of the first day of the Battle of the Somme. We're going to walk down there in a minute, but do you want to lead on, James?
Sure.
And just let's have a look at where the 2nd Fusiliers were running along this ridge here to capture this at the side of me. You will have seen old footage in various documentaries. So we're now going down into the crater, and what you've got to remember is that there's still undetonated mines or shells in this area, so you've got to keep in.
And if you look here, there are artillery holes here, more here, because this land was repeatedly fought over time and time again. More here.
These will be shell holes that were created after with the continuous fighting. But what you've got to remember is that this area, like I said, still contains live, undetonated shells and things, but also it's actually a grave, because there's many dead around here, both German and British. And the 2nd crater is that one just there, as you can see the lip of it there. And there's a few memorials, wreaths and poppy crosses and things. Do you remember that time when we first came and there was somebody else here as well, and we followed them, and it was before all...
Yeah, before it was all fenced off. We followed him up the side of the crater, didn't we?
Yeah, we came...
He was a guide, wasn't he?
Yeah, we came down here, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But obviously they don't want people to do that, and they've got these fencing up, so this is the only area where you can actually go to.
It's nicely maintained.
Yeah, it's a memorial. To remember, it's a grave, you know, as well. Well, we are now at Beaumont Hamel, and there are some preserved trenches here. So let's have a little look around here, because there's a little memorial. Is it the Caribou?
The Caribou, yeah. It's very much a Canadian battle, this one, wasn't it?
Look at the trenches there. So let's go up here to the
They
top.
describe the battles at Beaumont Hamel and at Beaumont Ridge as the birth of the Canadian nation pretty well.
So that is a caribou, a symbol of Newfoundland, and it mourns the loss of many young men lost here. And if we look down here, that is a scene of the battlefield. This is one of the trenches. It may well have been the reserve or the support trench.
Yeah, quite a few back. Was it the case that the communication trenches were so full of dead and dying that even from these trenches they had to go over the top to get to the front trenches because they couldn't go through the communication trenches because they were full?
So it zigzags round. What is it called? A traverse?
I'm not sure. It's called traverse.
But that's so that if one shell exploded in one part of the trench, it wouldn't decimate the whole lot and kill as many men as what it intended to do. So
I'm down in the trench, it's too warm.
yeah. Well, they've done this so that you're allowed to walk through this bit, but the others you can't. So it's a real trench that was there.
This is new.
It's a real trench that was there. It's just been protected by that flooring. This will have been a communication trench, where they'll have gone back and forth to the front line and back.
But like I said earlier, I don't think you'd hear me. The men had to go over the top from back there because these trenches were full of the dead and dying.
Just behind here is the front line, and on the 1st of July 1916 the Newfoundlanders left their trenches. It was 9:15 a.m. They were heading down towards no man's land, towards the Germans, but they were cut down, and it was something like half an hour later when it was observed that the battle was an absolute defeat.
Is it 800 killed or something like that?
Well, some 800 Newfoundlanders went into battle, and only 68 men answered the roll call the next day. It was more significant for the Newfoundlanders because for generations they couldn't build up their population because so many young men, they lost, I don't know, was it 95% of their young generation of men
Who served.
So this tree is behind a fence, and it's protected because it's called the danger tree. And why is it called the danger tree, James? Stand near it.
Because it was a pinch point in the barbed wire where the barbed wire had been breached, either cut or broken through shelling, and also all the men funneled into that, and it was an absolute killing zone. And this is the furthest point that soldiers got before they were mown down, cut down to pieces.
Yeah, I think, didn't they? Obviously, it was quite an opulent tree back in those times, but didn't a lot of them sort of shelter behind it, and they found
they might have tried.
massive bodies here or something. But this here is all no man's land, all this. So we've just left the British front line up there, and down there is the German front lines, which we'll head to in a minute, but this is no man's land. So we're just gonna approach the German front line, and it was a German victory here. I think it was a German Second Army who were victorious, and they held all this area, and they had, is it Wye Ravine?
Wye Ravine's right down in the dip over there, which we'll go to eventually.
Yeah.
I presume that was effectively one of their reserve trenches because they dug into the bank, didn't they?
So this is Wye Ravine Cemetery. Let's have a little look at these.
This demonstrates, obviously you've got soldier there of the Great War, then you've got two here, two soldiers of the Great War. They're all so mixed up they can't tell who's who. They've got two soldiers of the Great War, and then they've also got Private G. Warford, who they must have found his identity discs, and
Also an unknown soldier as well.
Yeah, it says 2 unknown soldiers.
Yeah, 2 unknown soldiers.
Oh, 2 soldiers of the Great War. There's an unknown soldier known unto God, 1, and then G. Warford, but they couldn't tell who was who. 22.
So there must have been. So they must have been fused together when they were found them or something like that.
Well, they found some remains, and they found one identity disc to one of them, but they don't know which one of those 2 sets of remains it belonged to. So they share, again, another 2 soldiers of the Great War.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, another 2 soldiers of the Great War, a soldier of the Great War. These ones, 2 soldiers of the Great War, unknown soldier, but they know he's South Wales Borderers.
Yeah, they know his regiment.
But they don't know who the other one is.
They don't know anything else about
Soldier of the Great
him.
War, 2 soldiers of the Great War, soldier of the Great War, 2 soldiers of the Great War, a soldier of the Great War, 2 here, so they found 2 identity discs, or possibly found other distinguishing possessions perhaps, but they can't tell who's who, so they're forever resting in peace together.
There's
2 soldiers of the Great War.
There's a lot of them in here, isn't there?
2 soldiers of the Great War. The thing is, another 2 who are named, but again, so mixed up. Part of the reason is obviously if you're hit by a shell, there might not be much left of you, but also this ground was fought over repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, as we've said. So, you know, if more shells land, they're going to get even more jumbled up, aren't they?
Now we've reached the German front line, and it looks very much similar to what the British front line would look like, the British and Allied front line. And down here, this is possibly carrying on from the front line.
Yeah, that's carrying on, just carrying on down.
It's carrying on.
Yeah, and that's down in the dip here. You can see there's a valley. That is Wye Ravine.
Yeah. So if you look over here, just right up there is where the British front line would be. So if you look there, that group of trees there is the Hawthorn Ridge Mine Crater where we were earlier. So it's not that far from where we are now. So you've signed the memorial book.
Mm-hmm.
Not forgotten?
No. Not by us, anyway.